There we go. I have to constantly be shifting this. Hi everyone. So we're so excited. What I just showed you guys about our space. First of all, you guys might not know this about Arlynd, but he is extremely private. That's an inside joke because everyone who knows him knows how extremely private he is. But the reason why I haven't done a full 360 of our space and what we've transformed it into is because it seems very, very odd and very weird to have the entire World Wide Web in our own personal space. But we do want to keep on sharing little things and little DIY stuff and little tips of what we've done. So we're going to come back to that, but we do want to show our cold plunge setup and our sauna setups and different stuff, because I know that a lot of people are curious about that, especially how we do it in such a tiny space. So we're going to do more of that, don't worry. But right now we're going to get Joovv on here. Light therapy.
Love red
Why
therapy.
we love red light therapy and infrared therapy and all of that. There he is.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
We are doing so good. We're doing really good. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the comments really quick. Again, not because we want to censor anybody, but because we want to see your face. You're a little bit dark. Is that just on our side? Or is it because you're using the red light?
Could be because I got this light on. Let's see. Is that a little better?
Yeah, I think so.
I think it was taking some of the exposure. I'm happy this worked. I'm always so nervous to get these connected because I always feel like I'm going to screw something up.
I know. And you know what? I always screw stuff up anyway, and it is what it is.
That's the beauty of
You're
a
right.
live. It's not fake.
Exactly.
That's right. That's right. This is
live.
how it always goes. If you ever do a podcast, it's always like, how's your audio? Something's not right, and you're working it out 15 minutes. And then, the interview, when you hear it, looks good, but, there's ups and downs through it.
Yeah, I know. It's live. It is what it is. You can't edit any of this, so we're just going to go with it.
What we were just talking about, I'm kind of like doing a little preview. What we were talking about is we've got a lot of people that are reaching out and asking questions about building or renovating a home to be more, produce more positives. And we're going to be showing people what that looks like and opening our own private space up a little more, just to give people more of a view of what that looks like to have a home that has tools that create health and tools that are, they don't have to break the bank. They don't have to take over half of a room just to have these things in them. But that's a perfect segue to why we love Joovv and why that, to me, is one of the easiest things to incorporate into any space and have a massive change in what's actually happening in how we operate.
Well, it was actually to introduce you guys to, Arlynd introduced me to red light before I was pregnant with Ocean, when I was pregnant with Alakai. And I had never really dove into it or researched it before. And it was kind of one of our bigger investment tools that we had to transform our space, because I was sharing with people too that we've owned many homes in our lifetime, in the lifetime that we've had, and we're renting this one. And a lot of people think it's backwards to invest in tools and to invest into a rental space, but we love renting. We feel a lot of freedom with renting, and we're still making it into our home and making it into this space that we have invested 100% in health. For us, there's no greater investment for us. So we buy quality tools, quality products in a very, very small, minimal space. And that has brought us so much joy and so much freedom, and allowed us also to share those tools with others. So red light has been a massive component through my pregnancies for me with postpartum, with depression. I know some of these terms we can't really throw out. I understand that. But for me personally, my own experience, it has helped me massively with that. And I share that with our people that are following us. But that's all about us. But we were so excited to actually talk to you and to be able to share more about what red light is, what it does, your product specifically, which is so incredible, and kind of want to hand it over to you.
Well, I love that, because first of all, it's so hard to try to find balance in this day and age with everything. You know what I mean? And you know, we're going to talk specifically about light today, but there's so many tools you can bring into your home. And I rent myself. I've lived in California since 2018, and I've rented every year. I've moved a couple times, and, you know, mainly because still looking for, you know, a spot to settle down in, that we like. I'm now in Porter Ranch, which is just above LA. It's not too far from you guys, I think.
No, it's not.
And so I like the freedom too of renting. I think a lot, you know, and you don't have to own your home to create a positive vibe in the home and bring in positive tools. And
not at all.
All of it is about balance. And, you know, light is one of those big things where a lot of people are out of balance with it. And mainly because we just haven't been educated.
Yeah.
You know, the first reaction I had to red light was like, that's BS. Like, light cannot do that for your body. And in fact, I remember telling my mom, who was telling me that my two sisters and two brother-in-laws were going to start this company. And I was like, you guys are nuts. Like, no one is going to buy that. I've never even heard of red light. I think a reaction I had was like, I've never seen athletes use this or in, you know, health magazines or anything. I've never heard of it, you know. And
why don't you invent a flying carpet while you're at it?
Yeah, totally. So then,
so you're the perfect person to be on here then today.
Oh, totally. Because I've come from that same vein, you know, and I've come from the same vein, and I've been very fortunate to have an amazing family around me that has not let me, you know, go by the wayside of just traditional ways to take care of your body, right? So, you know, I've been educated on, like, first organic, you know, the difference between organic and GMOs and grass-fed versus corn-fed meat and so forth and so on. And then so our family kind of dived into this red light, and I was like, boy, this is like another health trend, you know what I mean? And I was pretty young at the time. Joove's been around. This was in like 2014. So, you know, we're going on close to 7 years ago. And so the first time we actually had a prototype device, I didn't use it. I didn't use it at all, because I didn't believe in it. I didn't know, like, it had benefits. And it wasn't until I really started learning about really light as a whole, that I was missing a huge picture. And basically, you know, a good way of understanding that is light is energy. And it travels in the form of energy and travels in the form of waves. And all light has different effects on our body. Yeah. You know, and the sun, the original source of light, if you think about how much that does, it powers the entire universe that we know. You know, it heats the earth, it provides nutrients to plants. And, you know, if you throw a blanket over plants outside, what's going to happen? They're going to die. Mm-hmm. So why are we, as humans, any different? You know, and now we've lived into this modern lifestyle where we stay inside. You know, even before COVID, you know, the average American stayed inside about over 93% of their lifetime was living indoors. And, you know, the time we go outside, you know, you would argue we're fully clothed or we're wearing sunscreen or covering up from the sun. And I mean, we can talk about the sun and the impact that has on your body, especially exposing yourself to it, that it's actually way more benefit than there is negative as far as like skin cancer. But so, you know, in a nutshell, light is energy, and it has amazing benefits to our body. And it just so happens that a very specific band, and I tried to print this out, so I got to use an iPad, but if you guys can see that is the full spectrum of light. So there is a lot in there. And if you can see this little section here, right there, that's the color spectrum. So out of all light, that's as much as we can see. It's very, very small. And it just so happens that in that visible light spectrum, red light that they've discovered, which was by accident, I don't know if many people know this, but they were originally trying to radiate with a ruby laser a tumor off of a rat's tail. And what it did is it stimulated hair growth. So they realized, we didn't get that outcome, but something happened. It rejuvenated somehow. And so it was an accidental discovery. And then NASA started using LEDs in space in the 90s. And then estheticians picked it up, using it primarily for skincare. Because there's a lot of clinical data on supporting wrinkles, anti-aging effect of reducing wrinkles, increasing collagen. fading of scars, stretch marks, wound healing. You know, there's a lot of benefits for the superficial layers of your skin. But when you mix in the near infrared, you bring in this whole other category of deeper penetration into the body, which brings, you know, more benefits, you know, throughout the whole body. And so essentially, in a nutshell, red and near infrared stimulate an organelle in our cells called the mitochondria. The mitochondria is responsible for producing energy. It's what powers our cells. And when these cells get hit with this specific band, it kicks off an increase in energy. And not only that, but it increases cell signaling. So cells being able to communicate with each other, being more efficient. And so we see a whole host of potential benefits that stem from that. A lot of them, you know, there's not indications for, but we're seeing it from customers. Angi, you hit it. You've experienced different benefits, and you're not alone in that. And so we're really in a discovery phase right now of red and near infrared, and specifically treating your whole body. But it's very exciting because when you can affect the entire body by just shining light in a non-invasive way, and your body responds in that big of an impact, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest challenges, to be honest with you, is it's too easy. You know, somebody that is even listening to us right now, right? You might start to understand, okay, what is this? Why is that possibly having a positive effect? All of that. But quite honestly, it's too easy because all you have to do is expose your skin to that light, and that's happening. It's not painful. It's not a process that takes a lot of work, and I got to commit this time. It's a short time frame. So I geek out on it and love it because that's what I'm about, is how can I get the most benefit out of whatever it is I'm doing in the least amount of time. Not because I don't want to work hard or I don't want to put in effort, but why wouldn't I make it the most efficient combination of things that I can do for the most positive outcome? Red light is, you know, I would say cold therapy and red light. Cold therapy, you're in there really, really short amount of time and you're doing a lot of good things. Red light is probably right next to that, just behind it, because it takes about 10 minutes before you start having diminishing returns. But in that 10 minutes, what are you accomplishing? And you said it, you know, 93% of people spend 93% of the time inside. That's 7% of your time that you might get full spectrum light. And I think that has almost a greater impact than even saying the 93% inside, because you think 7%, and that's not across the board, right? 7% of the time spent in a day may be getting full spectrum light, or the kind of light spectrums that we actually need to produce what is needed. That's shocking, right? And that should wake up a few people going, well, what does that mean? If I'm not getting that full spectrum light, if I'm not getting what the sun is giving us, what does that mean? And if I can't change my life, or I can't change my patterns to get more, what are some of the things that I can do? That goes back to what I said. I have 10 minutes that I can commit to basically charging my system better than anything else on this planet right now, is giving it that high specific dose of red light and near infrared, near infrared, and creating what is needed, which the whole Krebs cycle and everything that happens from the mitochondria, going through all the process that has to happen there. But the end result is ATP that makes everything work. Doesn't matter what we're talking about in the human body, there's got to be the source of energy to make it work. The fun thing is when you understand, well, what if I increased all of that? What happens? Everything works better. Healing works better. Cognitive function works better. Everything you can think of that is a function of how we work and what we do works better, works more efficiently. That's exciting. To me, it's exciting. I love being able to see that. And you touched on the rat tail. What is exposing red light to a problem area going to do? It's going to diminish what the problem is, because function comes back in that area, and all of a sudden the body does what it's designed to do.
That's exactly right. I think we want that instant gratification too, of like, oh, I don't, you know, like a cold bath, you're feeling that instantly, right? Like it's cold and your body's shivering, you feel that effect. with red light, you're going to feel a slight warmth, but not enough where it's heating your body very much. And so you're kind of like, just kind of hanging out here, you know what I mean? And you don't get that instant, but if you could actually see internally what's going on, especially using it for a long period of time, it's going to do that. And, I think what we're kind of talking about here is we just need to give our bodies what it needs and get out of the way. This earth environment is the perfect environment for humans. It has everything we need. And for some reason as humans, we find a way to like do counteractive things, and a lot of it by accident. A lot of it's by accident.
Yeah.
If you look at, we're talking about like mitochondrial health and just health overall in general. But if you look at when we first introduced changing our light patterns in the early 1900s, when we brought the light bulb into the home, and then through the next 100 years to the 19th century, when we brought in, color TV, we brought in electronics, we brought in full spectrum lighting, we brought in, the iPhone, et cetera. In that span of 120 years, we've gone from average Americans sleeping 9.5 hours to 6.5. So in 100 years, we're sleeping 3.5 hours less. And so anybody that knows, what's the low hanging fruit of ways I can optimize my health or the way I feel is get good quality sleep. And so if we're not even getting good quality sleep, it's affecting everything. It's affecting our mood. It's affecting our health. It's affecting our hormones. It affects everything. And light is a big dictator in that circadian rhythm. Even you not like, let's say, getting outside during the day, that is detrimental, and that can affect your sleep because you're not keeping your circadian rhythm on track with how it should be, And so it's amazing how we've gone this far. We feel like we know so much, but yet so many people are unfamiliar with their light environment and how they're affecting it. And when you start wielding that to your favor, like we're talking about, it can make big impacts and big leaps on your health without having to do much.
Yeah.
It's not like you got to go sit in a sauna for 45 minutes and sweat. And some people, hate that. I personally like it, but some people, that's a lot of work. You know what I mean? It's not even as much effort as sitting in a dry sauna or heating your body up. It's literally just exposing your body to these wavelengths of light and having, your body respond.
That's what I talk about a lot when I get asked questions of, what product should I buy? What's the first thing I should do? All of these things. And I say all the time, it's bio individual, right? We're all in different seasons. We all have different things going on. We're all living in different environments and different circumstances. But yeah, one of the easiest things you can do is if you don't have sunshine, you can kind of reverse it and go to like, what is the biggest thing, or what's the number one thing that you can do for torture, for imprisonment, for how to break a person? You put them in solitary confinement in a dark space. So take away light and take away connection to other human beings. So what if that's like the biggest thing? Well, I'm sure there's other ways of torture, I know, but
I gotta be honest, the direction this conversation is going.
I'm wondering what experience Angie has with this, because she's talking very detailed.
Actually,
no,
she's
because I
talking
thought it
very
was,
detailed.
I think it's interesting.
I'm slightly concerned, actually.
I think it's interesting to take away light and think of solitary confinement like you're taking away light. So that means that light is a hugely, people who follow me get it. They get these weird things that I go on. You take that away. So what's the first thing that you can put back in? Light. Sunshine, like all of the things. Arlynd's used it for years and years and years with his athletes. So for specific physical benefits, I use it for mental benefits. Now we all know that mental and physical is completely connected. You can't do one without the other. So if you're using light therapy for one, it's going to affect the other. And what I love is that you're talking about sleep, the circadian rhythm part of it. Like I can use it first thing when I wake up and I feel energized. I feel the effects right away. Or I use it last thing at night and I get that calmness and just that red light, like that deep penetrating heat feeling. There's so many things, and it's so easy. Like you said, it's portable. You don't have to be in a sunshiny climate constantly. You can be living in the darkest part of the world and you have this panel. It's like you're harnessing the sun and biohacking your environment by having this panel in there. It's so beneficial for so many ways. And I would say not only beneficial, it's imperative for us. It's definitely imperative for our health to have light therapy.
And once you've extracted the information you need, it's a reward for the person.
Okay, I'm done with the prison analogy. Sorry. That's probably not something that you want your...
Well, there's two things there that I like that you mentioned, like in the morning and at night, and specifically like light, blue light gets, in my opinion, a bad rap because it's an easy tag word now that people associate. Oh, blue light, it's bad, it's bad, it's bad. Well, blue light, I mean, go look at the sky. What color is it? It's blue, right? That's what we need it stimulates cortisol. And that's what we feel in the morning with light. And if let's say you have blackout curtains, and if you don't have light kind of waking you up naturally, you could wake up like just feeling like groggy, slow, you wake up in that kind of like that fuzziness. And a big part of that is you haven't been exposed to light to kick up cortisol. And so through the day, blue light after midday starts slowly diminishing. And as that's slowly diminishing, cortisol is lowering, melatonin is going up. Well, now we just have an out of balance with blue light. And so it's not really bad when you understand it and you can say, hey, I'm okay being exposed to blue light. Like right now, I'm not really worried about my phone being exposed to blue light or my computer screen. There's other points from those devices as far as like, the flicker rate, different things like that, looking at it. But from just a color temperature standpoint, it's not affecting you. You're getting way more bright light outside than you are inside from your phone. And I mean by like tenfold, like they're not even comparable.
Yeah.
And so blue light's not bad, but when you're exposing yourself to it at different times of the day, that's when it becomes detrimental. So that's what I'm talking about. Like when we can wield it, and I know you guys do this, when you wield light to your favor, it's low hanging fruit that you can grab. And that makes a big impact, starting with your sleep. I'm fortunate to have recently the birth of my first daughter, and I stopped wearing like blue light blocking glasses at night so I could stay awake because I was like purposely not wanting to get into a deep sleep because my thought process was, okay, if I get into a deep sleep, she's going to wake me up. It's that much worse, right? They're waking up every 2 hours. So I was like, okay, I'm not even going to wear it.
Stay. Yeah.
That's right. I'm not even going to wear it. And so I did that purposely, and I could tell the effect. I was not into deep sleep, and it was not restorative sleep, especially if you're tracking it with like a sleep tracking device, whatever someone's using. But now she's sleeping better, thankfully. We just went through the 4-month regression, which was absolutely real and everything that's advertised. So
you don't know until you know.
You don't know until you know. You hear about it, and then when it starts happening, you're almost kind of like, who can I call? Who can I call? This is the worst thing ever. She's waking up every 45 minutes. Like this is a nightmare. Thankfully we're through it. I don't want to scare anyone from having kids. It's amazing, but there are tough times.
Yes.
And so now I'm wearing the glasses again, and we do a good job anyways of diminishing the light at night. But I can already tell like the restorative sleep is that much different, and not even waking up, and that's because the hormones are back to how they should be. Melatonin is high. So then when you go to sleep, you're going to stay asleep longer and get that rich sleep. And that's something I didn't really know before, Joovv, that all not sleep is created equal. Just because you're sleeping, it doesn't mean you're getting the rich sleep that you need.
Oh, yeah.
There's an amazing book. I don't know if you guys have read it. Dr. Matthew Walker, Why We Sleep. I love that book. It's an amazing book. And I learned so much from that, that it almost like screwed me up at first because I knew too much about sleep. So as I was like falling asleep, I'm like, okay, I got to stay asleep because I got to get, these hormones replaced or whatever. But
it's also extremely satisfying knowing what is the purpose of each stage of sleep. So why would you even focus on it, right? What would you do for, like we're talking about, circadian rhythms?
Yep.
Okay, so you can do something to benefit that with red light therapy.
Totally.
Blue light. You may find this interesting, and this is kind of a side note, but if you go way back in history, there's a lot of science that supports before the canopy was broken, and it doesn't matter what your science points you in and how that might have happened, whether you call it the flood, whether you call it some kind of big catastrophic event that changed the environment was more pink than it is today. And it would represent a little bit more of how the sun is setting, and it kind of shifts into that beautiful bluey pink. That's supported depending on the science you're looking at, that our environment looked that way, and that's why longevity was what it was also way back in the day. Doesn't matter what culture you go to, longevity was a little different than it is today, and the environment is the first place to look. So tying it all together, adding more or enough red light is going to change something as simple as what we would just say, well, how do you live longer? Without going into, well, what's happening there? How do you live longer? How do you live healthier, hopefully, in that longer life? Adding some red light to it, again, going back to the simplicity of it, it's almost frustrating how simple it is, but it is a big impact that affects everything. Circadian rhythms, what we've just been talking about. Again, it's easy if you use the right recipe and add a little knowledge of what am I going to try and do in that time of sleeping? What am I producing? You do that for 4 or 5 days and you're like, I thought I was just old. Or I was you know, I didn't ever think I was coming back. Basically, you know, you could say that. But you start functioning differently. You don't hurt as much. You can put a sentence together. You know, things like you just kind of feel like, I'm done. And that changes within 3, 4, 5 days.
You nailed it. Yeah. Go ahead, Angie.
I love what you said. Like, I'm going to put a slide when we're done here. I'll put a slide of the picture that you showed us of the different wavelengths, because it is frustrating. I agree with you. I've learned more in this last year than I probably have in my entire existence. And it's frustrating because the more you know, the more you all of a sudden know that you don't know. And that's so frustrating. But it's also exciting because it's exciting to know more. Like when I first bought the ring and I first started seeing that sleep isn't just sleep. Just like light isn't just light. There's different phases, different wavelengths, different numbers, different everything attached to it, where sleep isn't just sleep. And I was all of a sudden like, oh my goodness, this is incredible. And it's overwhelming at first, but then it comes down to just like knowing it, knowing how to change it is everything, because then you can manipulate and then you can change what you can, control what you can, and not control what you can control, but then you can let go of that.
Totally. And you know, I think, you know, to be transparent too, it wasn't an issue before we brought this, you know, lighting into the world and technology. Sleeping wasn't an issue because who was staying awake past really, you know, sunset? It was dark. What were you going to do? You know, candlelight is it's not even stimulating. In fact, you could say the flicker effect is actually very calming and actually would put you to sleep. How many people have fell asleep in front of a fireplace? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we never had this issue.
Touching on that, I was going to say this before, and I don't want to forget because I think it's a really powerful little example for anybody to look at their environment. Take your phone and video the light in your home on the slow-mo version of most people's most people have that slow-mo video, right?
Maybe some people don't.
Most people will have that option. But it's really fascinating when you choose like this fixture over here. Let's look at this room, go slow-mo, and see that flicker effect. Our brains don't transfer what our eyes are processing the same way they do it like that video. They are affected, that part of our brain's affected by that flicker, which most LEDs have. The newer ones, or there's more technology now, thankfully, that's changing some of that. But it's just how it works, how that lighting works, right? But it's really, really fatiguing and challenging for our brains.
Well, if you look in kids' schools,
Yeah, and it's super satisfying having that slow-mo video going, oh my goodness, that's what my brain's dealing with constantly. It's worth changing that. And again, putting something back in people's control of what can I do to minimize that stress that we've introduced into our environment.
Definitely. And Angie, you said their kids schooling, that is one of the biggest concerns with flicker of that rate, is when you're exposed to that flicker rate for very long periods of time. That's why they have there's safety tests that go through for a flicker rate. You have to have a certain percentage of low flicker. Otherwise, if you're exposed to it for too long, like kids in school for hours, that can be detrimental and that can be very tiring. You know what I mean? And so those are important. Those are definitely important things. I'm glad you mentioned that, Arlynd. And I would love to challenge people to start mitigating light at night. Start there. Start mitigating it at night, and you will quickly find that once you go to then bright light, like if you go to the store at night, or if you just go to your friend's house and then it's not like your environment, you're almost like, this is, I don't want to sound like a baby, but it's like, this is offensive in here. Like this is too bright. Like
It's
this
true,
is too bright.
yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like,
It feels like Times Square.
It
right?
does.
All of a sudden,
It
you're
does.
just like, wow, yeah.
And
Yeah.
you
Even
realize
switching
you're
back-
like, yes.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and you realize that, man, I'm used to that environment. My body doesn't like it. And so
Yeah.
if it liked it, it would be great, right? Like it's always great to eat ice cream, right? That always tastes good. But when you change your environment and you go into that, it's offensive to your body. So I think it's been a gradual approach of how we've brought all this lighting technology in, and we haven't even noticed it. So most people at night, they're completely clueless that they have a huge screen TV on that's blasting them in light. They have new bright light, right? New LEDs that are higher power, consume lower energy. And we all use that spectrum of light because it's cheaper to produce. But we don't even realize that when that was introduced to people that, hey, maybe that's actually not good for your circadian rhythm and your sleep. And now we're discovering that it is, right? That's why we're seeing products being promoted everywhere to counteract, blue light.
Okay, let's go to that then, because I think one of the things that we want to do and what we're always trying to do is educate people, not overwhelm, say you need a PhD to understand this, but basically say, here's what's going on. Here's something that now can be in your control to start looking at and to start changing, to shift to a more positive environment and positive existence. You guys have created technology and a product that's making a positive change. Why would somebody look at your product as opposed to what you said? I know the answer. I'm not challenging you on that, but give you a minute to explain why would somebody look at your product as opposed to what the marketplace is now seeing more competition for a red light device, right? And how do people know, well, why would I look at you guys? What sets you apart?
It's a good question. And I would say that what is the company's goal, right? And what I mean by that is like our mission. And Joovv, we're the first ones to create an at-home, full body system. So that's our mission, to create great products and improve on those and create the best experience. We're now involved in clinical research. We want to better understand what it's doing. We want to contribute to that. Other companies, their mission, and I don't know this for sure, but you can kind of tell over the years, is to see what Joovv is doing and try to mimic it at a lower price. And
well,
so
you
I
can
look
see
at
that even in the design.
absolutely.
Simply just with the design. Everybody's
Absolutely.
a follower of what you guys are doing.
So I look at that of like, that's that company's mission. We're going to follow them and do X, Y, and Z after they do it. You know what I mean? And that can work for a period, but just the difference in the company's mission is that's what we're trying to do. We've learned a ton over the last 5 years. We've made, we continue to make improvements. We're on our 3rd generation, and that's what we're out to do, is just create the best products. And we're unbelievably passionate about light. I mean, if you can, anybody that's listening to this, you can see I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to light. Didn't start that way, but now I've become that. And so that's what separates us. We know what we're doing. We're involved with some of the leading experts in the field when it comes to these wavelengths of light. We're participating in research, and we're doing everything we can to make the best light therapy experience possible.
The thing I appreciate about you guys also is yes to everything you said, but you're also driven by putting this in front of people and how do we make this accessible to people, right? To anybody.
Yeah, where you used to have to go to a medical place or a clinic or a spa to get this type of device.
Mm-hmm.
Or
definitely, and that's a key point, Angie. Before Joovv, the only option for you to get full body exposure was to go to a spa, a local spa, or an esthetician. And if you wanted to buy one of those for yourself, some people have, that type of money, but it would cost you anywhere from $50,000 to $140,000.
Yeah.
So we took something like that, and when we launched our first product, it was under $1,000. So if you see what we've done in this short period, it's been pretty incredible. Not only were we able to bring that into the home at a cost people can afford, but also, before this, nobody really had an understanding of what the dosage does. Does the power matter? You know, all of that mattered when we dug into the research. And now it's become like, you see claims of like more power, higher power, highest power, you know, and all these other stuff. And, you know, there's no research on that. There's no research of you know, increasing the power will give you X, Y, and Z. So that stuff to us is,
and if it's
silly.
even beneficial, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of silly because what we're after is, you know, we're the ones that decided to use these wavelengths from speaking to experts in the field and then doing the dosage that we do. And we're using that. And now we're actually, you know, participating in research and showing what that can do. I don't know why these other companies say they do, you know, X, Y, and Z, you know, that's them. We're doing it because of what we're seeing from research and also anecdotally from customers. It's been amazing what we've gotten back that you won't find in research. One of them being an actual, this was a reporter, not a reporter. She was she writes for a media outlet, and she was reviewing one of our products, and she has Bell's palsy. She recently got diagnosed with it, and she started using our Go device, and it cleared it up like 98%. And she was like shocked, like unbelievable. And it's like, up to that point, I hadn't heard it. Turns out there is a little bit of research on that, but that's one of those things where it's pretty incredible that light can do that. You know what I mean? And in such a short time. And there's even more. We've had people tell us, my sense of smell has been gone. Now it's back after using your product. Have you ever had this happen? And it's like, I don't know. Like, I don't think there's clinical research on light bringing back, you know, your sense of smell. But if you think about it, it's making the body work more efficiently. Exactly. It's improving cellular energy. You know, your body was lacking something, and now it's not, and now it's functioning back to 100%.
Feeding the plant, it's feeding your body.
You know, it fractures. Like I always, most people can understand what does it look like to see somebody go through a process of healing after a fracture, right? This affects the speed of recovery on a fracture, and that, you know, bruising or a tear of this, or those are all like, okay, well, what else is going on in the body? It seems really simple to say, here was the crack or the break. Now it's not that anymore. It's moved forward. It's healing. So I've loved seeing that in my own world. But it does just go back to that simplicity approach of saying, how does this work? Give the body what it's requiring to do its job. That converts that mitochondria, the power plant, right? Without going too deep into all the details there, what is actually making the difference there? Your mitochondria, the little power plants in the cells, are able to efficiently produce more ATP. That just makes all the functions in the body work better, faster, more efficiently. Even the cell integrity, right? It just makes everything better. So things are going to produce more positives overall, whatever it is you attach it to. If you put it here, but if your full body's in there, you know, that's why we love and why we put a big focus on full body is why not soak up as much of that as you can, because it affects everything. It affects your entire being's function.
And again, people can invest in what they invest in, and it changes over time. My money expenditure has certainly changed over the last decade on what I spend and what I don't. But yeah, we chose to buy the full panels just because, again, like I said in my stories, we know the benefits of it. There's nothing else that we want to spend money on, because when you don't have your health, you don't have anything. But what I love about you guys is the integrity, like you said, the integrity of your product and the integrity of your business. And we're so honored and excited to be a part of that, because you talk about your first prototype. We had your first prototype because Arlynd met you guys at the SOTMed conference. Was it SOTMed or was it the other one?
I believe SOTMed.
I think it was a chiropractic.
CalJam. Might have been CalJam.
CalJam, that's it, CalJam, and it was in like 2017 or 18 in Costa Mesa, I believe.
Yeah. I think it was actually earlier than that.
It might have been.
It was because I wasn't pregnant with Alakai yet when you brought it back. But anyway, all that to say, it's so cool to be a part of it and to see how it's evolved, you know, from the very first one to now seeing, again, the in-house accessible if you want to invest in the ones that we have, the wall units, the ones that you can hang behind your door. But knowing that this is the exact same light, the exact same but it's a smaller version. And then just seeing everything that it does. So again, for me mentally, I love the anecdotal thing way more than that. You can give me all the science behind it. You can, give me all the medical journals. But for me, I'm like, no, I want to feel it. I want to know it. For me, that it makes a difference.
And for people that do want to know that, that's there. Like, that's just awesome, to put that out there. There's a ton of information, research, peer-reviewed, everything that you would want to say, okay, what's the real deal here? That's available to you. We just don't want to put people to sleep that don't care about that on this.
Right. Yeah. You can drown yourself in the research. It is a lot, and it's growing at a very
massively.
fast pace.
Yeah.
Which is really exciting. It's just, you guys were in the marketplace at I would call it the beginning, and have done it the right way. And I think that's why there's so much traction specifically with your product. I mean, I wanted you to be able to talk about what sets you guys apart. I agree with you 100%.
It wasn't to be defensive or to like put you on the spot at all.
No, totally no. Yeah, definitely. And I appreciate that question, because it's an important question for consumers now, right? Because not everybody was back to where Joovv started and was like, hey, this company's developed this product. It's kind of being, a lot of people are using it now, and here's some of the benefits. They're jumping in now and they're seeing different options. And I think, Angie, you said, you guys got the full body, but when we started, you couldn't the system wasn't modular. You couldn't buy one panel where you could afford and then add to it over time. Like, that's something we developed, because when you look at it, it's like, hey, if you develop a huge panel and something happens to it that goes wrong, like that's a huge, how do you ship that back? What do you do? So how can we engineer it? And so that's what we've done, you know what I mean? And those are the things that sets a company apart. And that plays out even over, further time. And the Go device there, that's something we're absolutely super excited about, because before our first gen, you had to choose between near infrared or red, and now you're getting both in there. And we could have launched that first device with red and near infrared, but we would have done every other LED. And the reason we didn't do that is you're not getting enough. And so we're not just going to create a product just because you can have both in there. And we've seen that on the market, and they're just not getting enough. So that's why we split the two.
Yeah.
And what I love about this too is the ambient light mode. So it's so strong that you can literally, this can be in your home. You can use it. So many benefits to it, but having all of those things in here, it's so worth the investment, in my opinion. And again, just having it mobile. I had this, I showed it in my stories. I had this at the dentist office. I had it when we were driving to the park after I had major surgery. I had 3 teeth extracted and cavitations and all that. And like you said, some people notice the difference, or some people don't notice the difference. I noticed the difference right away, right away. And just having it accessible like this is incredibly beneficial, in my opinion.
It's pretty cool. I mean, and you think about the first devices you would see like that would be like, and we were just talking about this yesterday internally, of the LED face masks, and how dermatologists and companies have been selling those for a while, but those have one application, your face. I mean, it's molded to put on your face. The device you just showed, you can treat your face just like those. And you can also treat other areas of the body. You can target treat. And then the ambient feature, we added in as kind of a just something we saw our customers doing with our products in general. They were using it as ambient lighting so they could counteract the blue they're exposed to. And
that's what Arlynd does with his clients. It literally sets, when he's doing treatments on them, he can do spot treatment on their ailments or on their places that he's healing, and then use it as ambient light, almost have a full spa environment while he's doing his treatments. So
I'll combine, talking about frequencies, and this is just geeking out for 20 seconds. I love synergistically combining frequencies. So I love PEMF. I love light of any kind, right? Depending on what you're doing with the right frequency, because they cross over and you can match at some point, and that is a synergistic effect, right? Having the 2.0 of the Go was great, but it had the timer, right? That would time out. And I would have to go back and turn that back on if I was doing something at a 396 hertz level. This, now, I don't have to do that. And it's just an environment that you can create for whatever season you want. If it's 30 minutes, if it's an hour, okay, great. Now I'm not going back and turning it on and doing this all the time. So just on the cognitive function, doing PEMF, and some other things visually, it's been really cool to see that combination, that using the ambient side of things is just, it's a fun game changer.
It is, and I would encourage anybody, if you have kids, try it. It works.
Yeah.
It works like a charm. I kid you not. Kids are so overly stimulated, and can be hard for them to go to bed, and for all the reasons we're talking about. And we won't even
Kids
get into
and animals, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And they're learning, and I see that with my daughter now. She's only 5 months old, but man, is she taking in everything. She's like a sponge, absorbing everything, wants to explore. And, they're going to wake up at night. And if you can, I use this little device to use the ambient mode at night to change diapers, to do stuff like that, because it doesn't wake her up. It doesn't stimulate her. Like you would if you were to flip on the light, and then you're dealing with a whole host of other problems, because now the baby's just been stimulated. And even with other kids, we had a cool story. Rob Wolf, I was talking to him. This would be like a year ago now, but he was telling me how he started using the device, and in fact, his favorite part became the ambient, because he'd turn it on and his kids would wind down and fall asleep. And it's like, well, it's true. It's true, because it's not stimulating. And when you're not stimulated, your body's going to do what it naturally wants to do after dark, which is sleep. And that's what we're designed to do. And I'll steal Matthew Walker's quote: midnight is called midnight for a reason, because it's the middle of the night, not when we are supposed to go to bed.
So true.
Have you ever heard of that? Maybe you should take a note.
I've heard it. Applying it is...
He likes to burn the midnight oil.
We have a guilty one here. Is that what we have?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. See, it's one of those things, knowing something and applying it, there's still work.
But we're also in a season
Yeah.
of having children, and we don't have family around. And so for us to be able to get work done, we do work in the hours that our children are sleeping. So.
Well, and all joking aside, like, I use the biohacking tools and lifestyle. If put it this way, if I didn't, I probably would be dead.
You'd be a lot older, that's for sure.
Yeah,
A lot more dry.
I would be wrecked. So the combination of things from ozone to, I won't go down the list, but that's why I started off saying what I said about how easy this is. It's 10 minutes max if I want to do it that way. You can go longer, but I'm just saying 10 minutes. I can find 10 minutes to know that I'm kind of cheating the system, if you want to look at it that way. If I'm on a deficit, I can cheat.
You're bending the rules a little bit. You're bending the rules. But if you understand
maybe
the
a better way of
rules,
saying it.
Yeah, you're bending them, and then when you're like, okay, everybody does it, right? None of us are so I'm glad you said that. None of us all go to bed as 8:45, the sun's down, we're in bed. No, especially with kids, it's not that way. But if you see that maybe I've been kind of lethargic for the last couple of days, I know how to fix it.
For years.
Or years. Hopefully it's not years. If someone is, please get some sleep tonight. Oh man, you definitely, yes. If it's been years, you might need more than a light device, but you can start there.
Approach.
You can start there for sure.
Amazing. Well, is there anything else that you want to add? There's obviously so much, but
yeah, there's a lot. And I think, for people listening, just start being mindful of light. Even if you're still kind of on the fence about, light therapy devices, there's stuff you can do right away to start bending light to your favor. In the morning, get out and see the sun right away. Start your circadian rhythm. Yes, without sunscreen. And
don't block that amazing light.
And in fact, I'll touch on the sunscreen thing there, because, if you look at research, folks that actually spend more time in the sun, they do have that, there is an increased percentage chance of skin cancer, but all other mortality rates from diseases goes way down. So to me, my personal choice, the trade-off is I'm going to get sun, because all these other risk factors go down, and you see, quality of life higher. So I know,
but it's also the time of the sun. For us, I get asked every single day, what sunscreen do you use? What sunscreen do you put on your kids? We don't. I don't use sunscreen. There are companies that I would choose to use because of the ingredients that they have. But we get morning sun and evening sun. And if we are, and so our bodies are built up to protect ourselves from the mid-noon sun. And if we are in the mid-noon sun with our kids, we'll wear hats or shirts or whatever.
Or tinfoil.
Or tinfoil to reflect.
And so you can do that. And if you want to expose yourself to that UV to kind of stimulate vitamin D, do it for a short period. And then I would prefer putting on a shirt versus sunscreen personally, because I've gotten enough light there. I'm just going to put it on. Like, that's just me personally. Everybody
but
can
again,
do what they
getting
want.
the morning light and the evening light, which, like you were saying, on the different wavelengths, the sun is not just one specific wavelength. It has the morning, like it has a full range of different energy, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And who do you know that comes back from getting some sun that's grumpy? It doesn't. It usually does the opposite.
Unless they get burned.
I was going to say, it's usually, if it is somebody, it's the weekend warrior that never gets sun, goes to the beach, and they come back like a tomato, and they're like, I hate the beach. You know what I mean? they look like a red tomato because your skin's not conditioned. No different than if I don't exercise and I jump on a treadmill for an hour, I'm going to hate life. You know, that's the same thing. But Angie, one other point there, you know, the sun is full spectrum. And in fact, everybody kind of judges the sun. Oh, the sun's good for vitamin D. It's good for vitamin D. It's good for vitamin D, right? So make sure you're taking a vitamin D supplement if you're not getting out. But if you look at how much a percentage of UV light, and UV light is what stimulates vitamin D, of the percentage of wavelengths that get through the atmosphere, 4 to 6% of the light that gets through is UV. It's like super small. Yeah. So what else are we getting hit with? Right? We're getting hit with all the other colors of the spectrum, including infrared, you know, which heats the earth. So my point in saying that is, just because, let's say you take a vitamin D supplement, or you've gone to the doctor and you have high vitamin D levels, you know, great, but you're missing out on all these other benefits to light that we're proving out through clinical studies and different things. And what we're talking about, like red light. If you're not getting out in sun and you're not, let's say, using a light device, you're going without these wavelengths, and the mitochondria over time is not going to be as efficient. That's why we see the jumps in health benefits when people just start introducing red back into their body.
Yep. Agree 1000%. And go to the flip of that as well, right? Most people, or I should say more people, are experiencing low vitamin D, right? That's a concern, making sure they have a high enough vitamin D. That's going back to your first stat. 93%, right? 70%.
It's probably worse now.
Yeah, exactly. Think of this last year, right? So what can be in your control? What can you do to make some of those changes? That's what we're trying to put in front of people and have them be able to make those decisions with the options, right? This is such a good option and a simple option that actually affects overall health. But if you're looking at a blood panel that says I need to increase vitamin D, it's an easy way to do it, right? And touching just on that really quick, we all spend money, and I think more and more we're spending money on health. And one of the things that I like about what you guys also have done is, a year ago, 2 years ago, it's foggy on when, but you wanted to make this more available across the board, and you guys introduced financing. So, you know, I look at anything that is creating health and providing a way for people to have an opportunity to put that in their lives. It's always that, what are you swapping out? If the finances are the same, what are you swapping out to increase this? And I just talked to an athlete this last week saying, if you were to be able to remove a lot of the money that goes to the supplements that you're dealing with the symptoms of things, to try and get this to function better, try and get this to function, you took that amount and shifted that to something more upstream that is going to affect the stuff that the symptoms come from. That just makes more sense. And your body doesn't have to process all this other stuff. So I was specifically talking about Joovv, or talking about red light, saying, just take your financial side of things and say, what goes out to deal with some of the symptoms I'm dealing with? And if I can put that same amount towards my overall function, starting with mitochondria, doesn't that make a little more sense? That's what that person now is shifting over to. And I think it's just more satisfying because you have a device for one, you have something that's in front of you, you have something that's daily, and you're not constantly taking stuff to deal with what your body is trying to create balance in this area, right?
Mm-hmm. The source, yeah.
Yeah, getting to the source and actually helping the body create homeostasis.
That's well said and balance, right? The body wants balance. If your body starts to get hot, you're going to sweat, right? If it starts to get cold, it's going to shiver to keep the body at a certain temperature. So homeostasis is the most important. In fact, if you're not having, enough, if you're not producing enough vitamin D, because vitamin D is responsible for absorbing calcium in the gut, your body's going to take it from your bones because it's got to keep calcium in the bloodstream. So it's gonna take from other things to maintain a balance no matter what, right? And so light helps our ultimate message, right? We talk about power, balance, light, is keeping the body more balanced. And that's the key to health. If you go and do a quick search on how do you, like for when COVID was happening, how do you fight COVID? Or how do you do this? They say the best thing for your immune system is a healthy lifestyle. What does that mean? Exercise, diet, and get sunshine. And it's like, no one's going to tell you, get this prescription drug or get this or get this.
Yeah.
Because those are symptom treatments. We're not going to the root cause of why we even got there in the first place. And a big part of it is the lack of sleep, lack of sunlight, all these other issues, poor diet, processed foods, it goes down the board. But all of these are an accumulative effect on our health that bring us out of balance. And I like that you said that. I think that's a great note to close on. Is you hear the little baby there?
I do.
Gabby, bring
That's
me
like
over.
when the music comes up at the end of the show, right?
Yeah.
We'll
music.
show people the little baby here. It's a good note to close on.
Let's bring
Let
in
me
the
see
closer.
the little dumpling just got a bath.
Oh.
Right.
Say hi.
Say hi.
Hi.
Say hi.
She doesn't even care about
No,
us.
she doesn't even care. She sees that red light and she's
it.
all over it. But this was a great conversation, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. Honestly, it means a lot. A lot of information. We really appreciate you. We appreciate your company. You guys are giving $50 off I'll do another swipe up to people who want to look into your products. I'm super excited to share that. And thank you so much.
Thank you for being a product, a tool, and people behind what our mission is to try and keep it as simple and not overwhelming for people to make the biggest positive changes in their lives, in their environments, and something that they can control, right? What is an actionable step? What can I do? As opposed to 15 to 20 different things that I need to take this and I have to do this, and to keep it simple and to go upstream and to say, what are the main things I can do that are it's gonna affect me overall? And you guys are a big part of that for us.
Yeah.
So thank you for being a part of our team and our journey in that.
Yeah, and the feeling's mutual. You know what I mean? It makes life more fun and things like this more fun when you have folks like yourself telling people the right things to do and influencing people in a positive way versus just trying to influence people to buy products that you're promoting. There's an entirely different, and I can say that, Angie, you're one of the most authentic people that Joovv works with. And so I'm happy to have this conversation with you guys today. And I love working with both of you. I remember, when we first chatted years and years ago, and we've continued to have a good relationship. So I want to also say thank you because you guys do a great job of providing people with good content, making it understandable, and trying your very best to lead, tons of different people that are dealing with tons of different issues, in the right direction.
Thank you. Yeah,
Thank you.
Something that, I say over and over again, we don't promote, we just share what we're using. It's what's authentic for us and it's what works for us. And we really, really appreciate companies like you guys joining us in that. So
awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks,
and
guys.
Your check is in the mail for saying all those nice things.
Hey, I'm not an affiliate of Angie. She earned that. She earned those comments from me just of seeing, the content she's been producing for the last couple years. I've seen. So that was from the heart, Angie.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Oh, I appreciate it. We love you guys. I'm going to save this to our IGTV and I'll do a bunch of swipe ups and stuff after. But thank you,
Awesome.
Wes. Thank you.
Thanks
for your
having
time.
me.
Of course.